November was such a long month, and yet I still feel like I just filmed my October wrap-up. But here we are again. It's time to learn what I read in November. Holy shit. Let's get into it. In November, despite everything that November handed to me, if you've watched my vlogs, you know it was a long month. I read 14 books, 6 of which were graphic novels, 8 of which were physical novels. Well, that's a lie. There's some audiobooks and some ebooks, but you know what I mean. They were novels. It was a pretty good reading month. Nothing went below a 3. Is that true? Nothing below a 3-star, so let's see what I did. As you guys know, if you've been here for some time now, I like to break it into 2 parts. I do my graphic novels and manga first, and then my novels second, so if you prefer to skip over one or whatnot, feel free. I can timestamp below, I'll start doing that now, and I'll list the books below if you want to hear about something specific. I go in order from least liked to most liked. I like to build up. And that's it. Let's get into it with the graphic novels. For my graphic novel slash manga this month, I read 1 3-star, 2 4-stars, and 3 5-stars. It was a pretty good graphic novel month. Let me say first that my first one I checked out of the library and then it was on hold by someone else, so it's already back. And that is Giant Days Extra Credit by John Allison. I've heard about it before from other people that extra credit was, as it sounds, extra credit. It doesn't really linearly follow the storyline that you're accustomed to with Giant Days. In fact, it's just stories that John Allison decided not to put in the actual storyline, the arc. And so it's like a mix-mash of art styles and story that doesn't really fit. It was okay, and the reason it was okay is probably just because I love those 3 girls and the 2 guys. I love that group of people enough that reading it was like akin to reading A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. Like, it was alright because you're with the characters you love, but it didn't add anything to the story. It was weird. They tried to go like a little sci-fi on it. Like, the first story is about what would happen if the girls never became friends, but within like 3 pages of panels, they're friends. So it was a miss for me, but it wasn't awful. 3-star. Following that, my first 4-star was Giant Days Volume 9. Are we on 9? Volume 8. I'm a liar. This again was okay. It is not my favorite Giant Days novel, graphic novel. Didn't really further the plot too much in my opinion. I thought there was a little bit too much girl on girl hate. I did appreciate how that ended on a good note instead of it being just women hating other women. But there's 2 of my favorite characters do something I didn't really care for or respect or appreciate for the storyline, and I don't think it fit who they are as people. Maybe one of them, but not the other one. I don't want to give anything away. If you've read Volume 8, you probably know what I'm talking about. But it was okay. Definitely not my favorite. I feel like it was shorter than normal. I think I read it in like 40 minutes, maybe less than that. I'm a slow reader. I'm always going to pick up Giant Day novels. I'm never going to like give up on the series. It just wasn't my favorite from them. That's about it. My next 4-star read of graphic novels was Kim and Kim Volume 2, Love is a Battlefield by Magdalene Visaggio. I really like the Kim and Kim series. Those are the only 2 volumes I know of. I don't know if there's gonna be a 3rd. I didn't see anything on Goodreads, but I'm not very good at investigating that kind of thing. I hope it continues because it's an underrated. I don't really see people talk about Kim and Kim very much on BookTube, if at all, but it's pretty badass. It's 2 women that, if you remember from my past, I read the first volume, I believe last month or the month before that, and one of them is a transgendered woman and one of them is a lesbian, and they have like different names, but they both go by Kim and Kim. It's like, not like Kimberly, it's like Kimwell. I don't know, I don't even remember, but regardless. Kim and Kim, and they fight together. They're like bounty hunters, and this one kind of focused, the first one was a bunch of information, and the second one kind of honed in on one storyline with one of the Kims and expounded on the relationship of the 2 Kims and how close they are. I really liked it. Some people preferred the second to the first. I didn't. I really liked the first one, and I feel like it could have done a lot more, and maybe they will as the volumes continue, as the series goes on. they got a lot to work with based on what we learned in the first and what was left kind of hanging, relationships with family, that kind of stuff. The second volume focuses solely on like a past ex of one of the Kims, and it's cool to get some background, but it didn't blow me away. So it was a 4-star. It could have been a 5-star. It was also pretty short. I guess that's kind of my problem with reading graphic novels lately, is that a lot of them feel very, very short these days. And we're gonna get right into my first 5-star read, which was also too short for my liking, and that is Saga Volume 9. I finally got it. I put it on hold at the library because I kept looking for it, and every time I go in, it wasn't there, because everybody loves Saga, so it's always checked out. I knew going into this one that it was a big one, that something big happens. I've seen a lot of BookTube talk about it, so I was prepped for it. I had an idea of where it would go. I was correct. I shed a couple tears. I expected to sob, but I think because I knew the hype and what it meant, and because I guessed, it didn't hit me as extensively as I could. Also, my emotions have been whack this month. Like, my head hasn't been where it normally is. So when I would normally like weep and empty a box of tissues, I haven't had it in me to cry lately, which is probably like the opposite of what some of you would like out of life. I don't know. I'm going on a tangent. I didn't cry that much. It was good. Everybody loves Saga. I don't know anybody who doesn't love Saga. If you haven't read Saga, read Saga. Number 5, and probably the reason I find graphic novels to be too short now, is I found my new favorite manga. I also watched the accompanying anime, well, at least up until what I've read, and I ended up getting all of the editions because I loved it that much. And that is Deathnote by Tsugumi Oba, I think. You know me. Deathnote Black Edition, which is volumes 1 and 2. What more can I say? It's the first one, so it's about a death god, a Shinigami, he drops his Death Note book on Earth, and a human picks it up. And the Death Note book is set that if you write the name of someone and you can picture what they look like, they'll die. And you can manipulate how they die, or they'll just die of a heart attack if you don't want to distinguish how you would like them to die. And the kid that picks it up, Light, decides like he was fated for this, and he's going to play God and rid the world of people that are bad, criminals and the like. But there's going to be investigation, because clearly people pick up the fact that people are dying rapidly, and it starts with criminals. So who is it? What is it? And the first edition is just him getting used to using it, learning the rules of it, being followed around by Ryuk, the Shinigami, that only he can see because he's in possession of the Death Note book. It was so good. Like, I gushed about it so much to my husband that I can't gush. You know, like all us booktubers talk about how when we hate a book, we can talk and talk and talk about it. When we love a book, we're just like, we loved it so much. That's me with Death Note. Like, we got a snake and we named it recently. It was like planned. We named it Shinigami because my husband's now into it as well. It's just really good, and I bought all the editions. I'll show them in my book haul. I want to read all of them now, but I've got a lot of other things to read too. I'm gonna kind of map them out, put them in haphazardly when I don't want to read an actual novel. And I can't wait to see what happens in this series. Super good. 5-star. My final 5-star read from graphic novels is Zodiac Starforce by Kevin Panetta. This is so good. Like, I didn't know what to expect, aside from knowing that I really loved the brightness of this, the art style of it, which I say about a lot of graphic novels. It was fun, it was cute. I am big on, I'm not big on astrology, but I definitely feel like people are what they're born as. So like, I'm definitely an Aquarius, and my daughter and my sister are definitely Virgos, and my husband is definitely a Cancer. Like, it's as important as your Harry Potter house, alright? Don't at me. This is so good. I can't wait to get to Aquarius. That was my one qualm with this whole book, is that none of the main here have or are Aquarius powered. I should probably tell you that these are women that, well, so far they're women, that have powers based on astrology, and they each have like one power move, and they have to fight. They have like an overarching power that takes care of them, watches over them, has given them their powers. And then there's like a bad one that has been cast out of the Zodiac Starforce because she felt like she wasn't getting enough from this overlord woman, and that's who they fight this volume. I really loved it. I can't wait to read the second one. My library doesn't have it. I have it in my Amazon cart sitting, but I haven't pulled the trigger on it. We'll see what happens for Christmas. If I get like a gift card, it will be the book that I purchased. Like, I really just want to read the second one. Really loved this. If you want something fun and bright, let me try and get somewhere that's like not spoily. It's cool. It's full of girl power, kick-assery. If you're into that, check it out. Thank you to Natalie from Pages and Panels, who sent me this when I won her giveaway. Now we are moving on to the novels. So the first, I should probably say. So of the novels that I read, which I believe I read 8 of them, there are 3 3-stars, 4 4-stars, and 1 5-star. One lone 5-star. Womp womp. Again, I'll reference my mental state this month and say that I wasn't really in reading mood, so some of this may be affected by that, and I'll acknowledge it as we go. But let's get into it with my first 3-star read, A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tahereh Mafi. I think this had the potential to be great for me. I've seen mixed reviews. Like, a lot of people really like it, and a lot of people, no. A lot of people really like it, and a few people are wishy on it in the same sense that I am, in that it's good, but it's not great. I don't know if Mafi is my style of writing. I know that the Shatter Me series has a lot of mixed reviews, and it's a little cliche, and I feel like that cliche kind of fell into this book where it didn't need to. The storyline is about a girl who's in high school. She moves around a lot, and she wears hijab, and it's something that she chooses to do. She knows that because of that, and because of rampant racism, that it affects her life day to day. She literally goes around, and because she moves so much, she never really has a sense of friends or belonging. She walks around with the chip on her shoulder. She's hateful, and you feel it and you understand it, and that character, that part of her, was what made this book good for me. I liked seeing that anger. I liked seeing the weight of the world that she carried, how she felt. Everybody hated her, even before there was actual reason to, just because of what she'd been through in life. I love that side of the story. Then she falls in love. It's insta-love. It's a boy that promises to change everything and to not worry about what their interracial relationship will do for them. He wants it, she wants it, they finally go for it. They're like so in love with very little build-up, except that they're lab partners. It's like Twilight in that. Like, they're lab partners and suddenly they're absolutely in love. I cringed at parts because you've got this really great underlying story of a girl going through racial injustice, and then suddenly the entire middle to like almost the end of the book is this love story that doesn't make any sense, that I can't buy into. And at one point, like, he's on the phone, they're not even together yet, if I'm not mistaken, and he like starts calling her baby. I don't like that kind of stuff. It literally makes me cringe a little bit. Like, oh, the pet name unwarranted, not a fan, not a fan. So literally the love story killed this book for me. There's an like a small plot line of her being into breakdancing along with her brother and his friends, and they like to have a crew. That was cool. I even learned a little bit about breakdancing. It was very YA in my opinion, which it's what it's marketed as, so it's good. I'm just, you know, some YA reads a little bit older and some YA reads very YA. This read very YA. It was okay. At one point I almost DNF'd it in the middle of the love story, and I was like, you know, it's a pretty fast read, I don't care. That's it for that review. My next 3-star I'll go over really quickly because I did it in my last vlog, which was Sweet Book Series #1, The Book of Shadows by Kate Tiernan. I listened to it on audiobook. It was a really, really quick audiobook. I listened to it at 2 times speed, that I think made it like a 3-hour audiobook, maybe tops. It was for the Fallen to Fantasy readathon. It was okay. It was very catty. It's about like a guy that comes into town and everybody's in love with him. Like, all the girls are falling in love with him, and Cal, I think his name was, and he practices Wicca, and he brings all these people in to do like a Wiccan traditional. I know nothing, I'm not gonna lie, I know very, very little about Wicca, so I can't say what it was specifically, but they do some kind of ritual, and the main girl feels powerful, and she reacts differently than everyone else, and there's like a background voice that's like, I found her, I found the woman that's going to bring the power forward, such and such. And so obviously you're led to believe that she is some bloodline that is descended and she's a real witch, and this guy Cal has brought it out of her. That's basically all that happens in the first story, but it's very catty because all the girls want Cal, but it's like kind of clear that he's interested in her. You don't know if it's like romantically or just because he thinks that she's gonna be a powerful witch. So it was alright. It was a fun listen to while I did chores and stuff that week, and it made me feel like I was getting things read and accomplished, but it wasn't anything special. My library doesn't have the rest of the series, so I can't say that I'll continue on, but it was a 3-star. My final 3-star is my biggest disappointment. I would say my second biggest disappointment of the year so far, second to Children of Blood and Bone. And I don't know if this falls into the idea that it's overhyped for me and I got really excited for it and had high expectations and then it didn't come through, but that is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. I absolutely loved Six of Crows. It was my favorite read of the month that I read it. I fell in love with all 6 characters. I don't know if I did a disservice by not immediately going into Crooked Kingdom, but I cared about all 6 characters a whole hell of a lot less than I did in Six of Crows. I feel like not a whole lot happened. You had some action in the beginning, and then there was like nothing, and then action in the end. I feel like it was a book to tag on to one that did really well, instead of it being a story that needed to be told. I just wasn't feeling it. And I've seen so many people that love the duology and love Crooked Kingdom even more than Six of Crows, and I've watched videos. I mean, if you've seen Read with Cindy's reaction, which I immediately watched after to see what I was missing, she really cared about the characters, and I assume that's what everybody feels, is it's about the 6 characters. And if you care that much, this book is going to pull your heart apart, but also really lift your heart up. Like, it's a mishmash of emotions. But I think because I knew something big would happen, and because I wasn't in the state of mind, and it literally felt like a chore to read this, I was super disappointed. I might revisit it in the future, like during the summer, maybe when I'm feeling a little peppier. I don't know what I did wrong. It's a beautiful book because red's my favorite color, which is like the dumbest thing to say. Welcome to my booktube. 3 stars. Super bummed about it. What can you do? My first 4-star read is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. Here's the thing about this book. I think I've talked before that I'm slowly going through the Throne of Glass series. A Court of Thorns and Roses is my favorite series of the 2. I'm still slowly working through it, and Queen of Shadows was started in April of this year. And it took me until October 30th to read the first 50% of it, and then from October 30th until sometime in November I read the second 50%. And isn't that what Sarah J. Maas is known for? The first half of her book, nothing happens. Literally, it's just people doing stuff. And then the second half, things start picking up and action happens and you care about it again. If that timeline isn't just proof of that, April to November 50%, and then November the second 50%, cut it. Who was her editor? I'm hating on a really loved series, but I'm gonna continue, but I'm not pushing it. I've already checked out this next book in the series, but it's not even remotely a priority. And that's what happens, is I get it on overdrive, and then I just renew it, and renew it, and renew it, and I pick away at it slowly. It'll take me another year to read this book, I swear. That's okay though, because it got read. It was like every other Sarah J. Maas book. It was good, it was okay. They're all about 4-star reads for me. My next 4-star book was a book that I read for Fall into Fantasy Readathon, but I did not finish, and I actually finished it last night on the cusp of the end of November, and that is An Ember in the Ashes by Saga. I was really excited to go into it. I got a Kindle credit, and I used it for that book, and I didn't really know much about it, but it has so much hype, and I really wanted to get into it, so I did. I read it. It was pretty good. Again, with the love story though, I don't know what it is with me lately in YA love stories, but they all feel so cringy. I shouldn't say all, They can do it right, but like, ugh, insta love. I don't know why it's such a trend, a hot topic thing in teen novels and YA to write in love stories that like just don't need to be there. So, An Ember in the Ashes is about two classes of people. There's, we'll call them the warriors because I can't remember what they're called. And then there's the scholars, and if you do bad things, these warriors, the masks come and they like, they're ruthless. They kill people like left and right. So your main character, there's two main characters told from two perspectives. One is a mask, and he's like very important, and his mom is like the commandant, like she oversees the training school for these warriors, these masks. And he like hates it. He wants nothing to do with it. He hates the brutality of it. He wants out. And then you've got the scholar girl that becomes a slave to his mother, and she's trying to spy on the commandant and the school because her brother's been captured by a mask and is in jail. That's the synopsis. There's a whole lot of interwoven love. We'll call it a square. A love square. Everybody likes multiple people, and it's like instant. They don't spend more than a few minutes at a time with each other, but they're all so confused in their love for one another. I don't know why I hate it so much. I don't hate love. You can do it right. It's just not in the books I read this month. Maybe I'm just anti-happiness. In any case, overall it was good. I think the story is unique enough, and I like where it's going. I instantly checked my Overdrive library to see if the second book is available. It is. I don't know when I get to it. I downloaded it. It'll probably be much like I do with Sarah J. Maas books. I'll just renew it until I finish it. It seems like it's going to be a little shorter than the first book, but maybe I'm incorrect because I read one on my Kindle and the others on Overdrive, so it formats differently. But I'm excited to see where it goes, and I've heard great things about it, so I'm going to keep up with it and see. It was a 4-star read. It was okay. My last 4-star read is The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden. I'm sad to say that I didn't love this as much as The Bear and the Nightingale, because The Bear and the Nightingale is one of my absolute favorites of all time, and I think I know what the problem I had with it was, the reason it was a 4-star. The first half of this book, give or take, is Vasya trying to be a traveler through her world instead of being tied down to the Winter King or literally anybody. And little things happen here and there, but the magical part of it is a little bit backseated. In the first book, you've got the Demovoids. I think I pronounced it incorrectly, but they're like the little fantastical creatures that help the world work, like fires burn and horses be fed and cared for, like that kind of thing. And they were spattered throughout all of The Bear and the Nightingale, but almost the entire first half of this book, they don't really exist. It isn't until she kind of settles into a town and things start going wrong for her that the book picks up. Literally, there's like a part in the book where I can tell you it turned, and she makes a bet on a horse that she could tame it because she can kind of talk horse language to them mentally. I don't want to give too much away because it is a sequel, but from that point things start moving faster, the magic comes back in. I think part of it was it suffered from middle book syndrome. Anybody who reads a lot of trilogies knows that the middle book kind of bridges between the two, so I still have high hopes for The Winter of the Witch, which comes out in January, but this wasn't my favorite of the two, which is a little disappointing, but I'm really glad I got to it because I've been putting it off for a year. Yeah, I got it in December of last year, whenever it released. But I got it done. It was a 4-star. Not disappointed entirely, but it could have been faster paced. And my final 4-star read was one that I checked out because it has a lot of hype both on Instagram and on BookTube, and there is a read-along for the month of November going on for, I'll link them down below, Monsters, and I always forget what it's called. I don't know what my problem is. My brain doesn't have like enough room for everything that it wants to remember. Regardless, so I picked it up, and I picked it up before Fall into Fantasy started, and I wanted to get it done before Fall into Fantasy started, but reading slump, so I put it down thinking I'll pick it up afterwards. And then I realized, because I was like 50 pages in and not a whole lot had happened yet, this book is fantasy. I didn't realize that. I knew very little going into this book, and I think that's the way to do it. So I'm not going to tell you much about it, except Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand. Super good. It actually gave me nightmares, and I read a lot of like creepy horror stuff, and I don't know what about this specifically made it horrific enough that I literally had rolling nightmares one day. Like one night I slept and I woke up 4 different times, and every time I woke up it was for some degree of nightmare happenings. So if you don't like scary or creepy or like weird things, there's a lot of trigger warnings in this for murder and kidnapping and like bad shit, but it's really good, and I didn't see it coming. I had no idea what I thought this was contemporary, but it was a nice little fantasy. I think if you're the kind of person that likes contemporary and isn't a huge fan of fantasy but likes a little magical realism sometimes and some light fantasy, this is going to be a good book for you to check out if you can deal with all of the creepy stuff. And last but not least, my only 5-star read of November in novels is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I buddy read this with Kayla from On the Fritz. I'm so glad that we did it. I'm so glad that I put it aside when I did, because I thought I read more than I had, but I think I read about 20% of it on my own earlier in the year, and I just wasn't feeling it. I was reading it on an ebook, and I put it down and I hadn't picked it up, and I kept talking about it in all my videos. Literally since I've been on BookTube, I've talked about this book. Finally read it, absolutely loved it. It's funny because Daughter of Smoke and Bone I read and I didn't really like. I haven't finished the series, and I was afraid that going into this I wouldn't like it, but it's written so differently and beautifully. This book has been talked to death on BookTube, but it's about Laszlo, who is a librarian, he's a dreamer. He wants to go find this lost city that is now called Weep. The name is taken from everybody. No one remembers what the city is called. They call it Unseen City or Weep, and he gets the opportunity to go and find out what happened and why the city name disappeared. There's also gods, and the gods are kind of the reason behind everything that happens. It's just so good. It's so good. I got Muse of Nightmares. I haven't read it yet. I should probably get onto it soon so it doesn't suffer the Six of Crows Crooked Kingdom problem. So I'm editing my video and realized my camera cut off in the middle of talking about Strange the Dreamer. I don't remember what I said, but I'll wrap it up by saying that it was a great read. 5 stars, best read of the month. Glad I finally got to it. Hopefully get to Muse of Nightmares soon. That's it. And for my outro. Here's to another month of reading, a fresh start. December is here, it is almost the holidays, and then a new year. I hope you guys are all doing well. Like if you've liked this video, subscribe if you're new here and want to see more content from me. Thank you for being here again, guys. I'll see you when I see you.